My ikigai is to delight. To delight. That's what I go out for every day in the world, whether I'm talking with a clerk at the grocery store, or if I'm singing a song on stage, or if I'm on the radio, or if I'm giving a TED Talk to you wildly attractive people right now. My ikigai is to delight. I throw it out into the world, and I get it back in return. It's the full cycle. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, well, that's great, Tim. Well, now we know what your ikigai is. What is my ikigai? Let me give you some directions on how you might be able to start figuring that out. I suggest to start part-time. Part-time ikigai is within reach. Right? It is very within reach. And I'll tell you something. When you look at there and you see on the screen that there are 2 sections of the day where you don't really do anything, that adds up to 8 hours, you can focus your work on the 5 to 9 hours of the day. Okay? Start part-time. Figure out what you love to do and what you're good at. Spend time on that for as long as you like. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can start a side hustle, or you can do a side helpful. A side hustle, by the way, there's a lot of millennials that have side hustles. Up to 50% of millennials have side hustles, according to studies. 50%. And why do they have those side hustles? It's because it gives them the opportunity to be able to do what they're good at and do what they love. And it opens up the opportunity to be able to transfer that part-time ikigai into maybe full-time ikigai down the road. And it doesn't hurt that you can make a little bit of money off it either, right? But what if money isn't necessarily behind your ikigai? Maybe you want to just broaden your heart. Well, you can do a side helpful instead. At Yale University, Professor Lori Santos teaches a course that is called The Science of Well-Being. And this course, she takes time to be able to explain that we are really, really bad at figuring out what it is that are going to make us happy. So things like money and job and your good looks and your big house, they really have no impact on your base level of happiness. What does have an impact are things like kindness and meditation, time affluence, in other words, doing with your time what you want to do with your time, and spending time with friends and family. Ikigai is an action. It's a verb. To serve, to create, to delight, to nourish, to provide, to teach, to heal, to connect, to build. Is there any verb on that list that resonates with somebody in the crowd? Nod your head if there is. Yes? Yeah? There's some nodding happening down here. Yes? Put up your hand if you see something up there that's exciting. I have some yellow belts. This is good. Where's your hand? There we go. There's a yellow belt for you. We got a yellow belt in the front row over there, and there's got to be somebody over there. There's a yellow belt right there. You have earned your yellow belt in Ikigai. You know what you're good at. You know what you love to do. Looks good on you. Ikigai is as reliable as a mathematical equation. Ikigai equals time affluence plus your gifts plus rewards in return. And you can do it over and over and over again, and you're going to be so much richer because of it. Your meaningful life is not a destination you have to get to. Your meaningful life is something that you can enjoy right now and any time you want to. Okay? A little bit of joy every day is going to add up to a lifetime of joy, isn't it? And when you finally get the chance to spend time getting to know what you do, or what you love and what you're good at, your Ikigai will start to come into light. And eventually, over time, you will earn your black belt. Your meaningful life is going to be a lot of work. But I think you really already know this, that you are worth the work. And now you have the Ikigai map to show you how. So I invite you to try Ikigai. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I think he's here. I just wanted to do Ikigai.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. So then, what is Ikigai to you? Who can then tell us what do you understand about the concept before we proceed? You want to try, sir?
For me, okay, my own Ikigai would, okay, like he said, to find out what your Ikigai. He said a couple of things, especially when he was talking about those verbs. For me, I think it is to serve. That's my Ikigai. And the whole concept of Ikigai to me means that something that I will do comfortably and enjoy doing.
Something you do comfortably and enjoy doing it. Who here feels like they are currently living their Ikigai? Does anyone here feel like they're currently living their Ikigai? You feel like you're gravitating towards it? Part-time. You feel you're living your Ikigai? Okay. There are three things that are very crucial, before I go back to my story, for you to achieve your Ikigai. And those three things are the intersection. You remember that circle it showed, right? The simpler form of it is just the three circles and where the three circles intersect. Your market, your passion, and your skills. Your market, passion, and skills. You cannot live in your Ikigai if, number one, you don't have someone that will pay for what you love doing. Number two, you don't have enough passion for that thing you're trying to do that you feel is your Ikigai. And number three, you don't have the skills to actually do it. So there's a difference between passion and skills. Your passion, no matter the amount of passion you have, you cannot take someone, put them on a theater bed and repair their liver. No matter the passion you have to learn how to repair the liver. But do you know there are some people that they are joy. There are some people I went to school with that the only thing that they want to do with their life is to be a full-blown medical doctor. So they have that passion. There's this huge market for doctors, and then they go to school for 6, 7, 8 years. And if you're going to become a consultant, you need to do an extra 10 years in total. You go to school for almost 20 years to achieve the height, the pinnacle of the Ikigai. And so it's important for us to know and that your skills, where a lot of us lack when we're pursuing our Ikigai, is that skills development. Because number one, we've not been able to fully identify your passion. So I'll go back to my story, then we'll try and take those three things different. The last bit which I wanted to do, we can't get to project it, so I'm going to leave it. But then we're going to talk about those three components. But let me finish my story. So I went back and Dad said, okay, he said, what do you want to do? I said medicine, failed it, got into school. And in less than 2 years, I realized that there are several ways to heal the world. That you don't have to be a doctor alone to heal the world. As a matter of fact, everything we do contributes to healing the world. Except if you're smuggling drugs or you're working for the Russians. You know the way they do it in movies, right? If you're working for the Russians, right? But if not, everything you're doing in some form or shape is contributing to making the world a better place. That's what healing the world is all about. So when I discovered that, precisely in my second year, I made a U-turn. And in 2002, I started my first business. So it then turned from me trying to, think of going to Kuwait or Rwanda to go and be feeding homeless children there, to what can I do in my immediate community. GSM was new at the time. There were no call centers. For us to call our parents or to call our loved ones, we'd have to walk like 3 kilometers to make the first call then. So I said, what can I do? I didn't have a phone too then. So I was able to convince my eldest brother then, bought me a phone, Nokia 1100, and I said, with this phone, I'm going to solve people's problem. So we don't have to walk 3 kilometers anymore to talk to people. So the first step towards my own way of healing the world was to start a company, or rather to start a business that was providing call center to people. That was essentially a call center, umbrella, table, and chairs. That was my first major business. But I'd done so many other things before then. I traded, so whenever they give me money from home, I would buy a pack of Titus fish. I would sell in school, double the money, keep the rest in my pocket. That's what I was doing up to that point. But when I realized that to heal the world, I don't necessarily have to be a doctor alone, it changed. I changed from pursuing just money to feed myself to trying to solve little problems. And that was the first problem I solved. I ran that thing for the first 6 weeks. When I come back from rigorous class in the evening, 6 o'clock, I'll bring the umbrella out myself in front of my hostel, and I will run it till 12 midnight, and I'll go inside. And my mate will come then. And I just moved, and I just changed school at the time. I was going and I said, I want to make call here. I say, oh yeah, sure. Here's what do you want to do? The guy like, no, where's the guy here? I say, no, I'm the guy here. The guy like, okay. Are you not in my class? Like, yes. I'm like, yeah. We're like, so I did that for the first 6 weeks, and then moved from 6 weeks, hired someone, and that business grew from 1 to 2. By my 3rd year, I was writing my first MBBS, so I sold the business and to focus on my exam, and took all that money and started investing in the stock market. Again, with that same purpose that I want to heal the world. So about that time when I started that first business, when I made that U-turn, I still have that jotter at home, and I showed my wife that jotter when we first knew each other. I wrote there in jotter and said, I want to become a philanthropist. That's what I wrote in that jotter. Like, my life aim in that jotter was, want to become a philanthropist. Don't forget, can you see how that connects with how I was inspired by my environment and what I was doing and what I still wrote, which is not now medicine anymore. I just said, I want to become a philanthropist. When I then told myself, I said, to become a philanthropist, I need to make a lot of money, right? So I started thinking that, okay, but if I want to solve a problem, I need to start looking for problems to solve. So that led me from, of course, school didn't allow me to do a lot of business anymore, but I moved to stock market. In the middle of that, because that was my fabric, I used to buy books from a university bookshop at the time, and then the university bookshop was being run by University of Ibadan bookshop, and then they shut down. They said it wasn't profitable for them. This was in Okada, so I went to Benedion. I first went to Madonna, then went to Benedion. So they shut down, and we couldn't run. So I said, okay, we can do something about this. At that time, I was in my 5th year. I was in my 400, going to 5. And I said, okay, we can do something about this. We need to continue to buy books. So I went to meet my VC at the time. And at the time, I was very active in sports, too. I was playing chess for the school. I was playing Scrabble for the school. I was playing football for my department and all that. So I went to meet the VC. VC said, are you this man? You're sure you can do this? I said, I'm going to run it. So again, with the aim of, the aim wasn't to make money. The aim was that we used to buy books from this bookshop. This bookshop is shut down. The university don't have any bookshop anymore. Let us open this bookshop back. I went, they gave me the approval to run it. I came to Ibadan, bought the business from UI, went to Musuro Booksellers in Ibadan, made a deal with him. He's from my alma mater, secondary school alma mater. Then he told me I can order, and I would need to just pay him back after I've sold and so on and so forth. And then I had to move for my clinic house, so I didn't have time. That became my first failed business, but we didn't launch that business. We took over, we did some refurbishing, but we never took off because I just didn't have the time. I didn't know anyone I could hire to run the business. So the school, I had to release the right back to the school to give it to someone else. But we did that for like 1.5 years. And my childhood friend, that guy that we used to eat Elecute together, I told him, was the first person I told about it. And then he said, oh, let us, on the proposal, let's choose a name. So he said, what are we going to? Let's put on the name Lofty Incorporated. So we chose the name Lofty Incorporated on that. It wasn't registered. We were just students then. So we submitted, they approved it, but it never took off. Now, fast forward, in my fifth year, because I was now busy with clinicals, we said, no, let's go and let's start to register this company. We registered the company, and we started the registration. The registration took 2 years, so it didn't come out until NYC days. We finished our registration. It took us 2 years in Benin. Someone helped us in Benin to do the registration, but long and short is that we got Lofty Inc. registered, but we registered as Lofty Inc. Now, what we do at Lofty Inc. today, and the reason why I'm not practicing, falls back and dates back to all the things that inspired me all through my life, to the point where I am. And as human beings, we must look deep and search deep and answer deeper questions than I want to make money. I don't still have the money. I don't think I have the money in my own opinion. I think I'm still very far from where I want to be. Because what kind of dream I'm dreaming is that, the kind of goals I have in my life is that no one in my hometown, I'm from Modaike, Ocean State. The kind of dream I have for myself is that no one in my hometown should ever say they cannot go to school because they don't have money. No one. So this is not about me knowing someone. This is about me setting a system where everyone that wants to go to school can go to school. Right? And that's the dream I have. And I'm far from that kind of money. But in life, you must strive to live beyond, I want to make money, I want to jackpot. If what you're thinking right now is, I just want to jackpot, you're on the wrong path. If you're traveling out because you've identified a clearer path to your higher purpose, then you're on the right path, in my own opinion. But if all you're still thinking at this time is that anything, just let me do anything. Just give me, I can do anything. Your life at this stage, shouldn't be about doing anything. All this thing I'm telling you about I started as a teenager. So that all my trading, my first year, second year, I was a teenager. Right? And by my early 20s, we registered Lofty Inc. Today, Lofty Inc. is going to be 13 years in a few months old, and we've not looked back. And now we've moved on to, again, the same concept as what we do at Lofty Inc. Today, our goal at Lofty Inc. is to create 1 million jobs over the next 10 years. This was a vision that we recrafted last year. For this decade, this 2020 to 2030, our singular goal is to create 1 million jobs. And we're tracking it. As we speak, since inception, in the last 10 years, we've been able to do over 50,000 through all that. And that was when I was talking about Flutterwave. So what Lofty Inc. then now changed to do was that we started investing. The little money we had, we started investing in tech startups. So Innovation Hub, which is a fallout of Lofty Inc., was the first tech incubator that was created. We created in 2001. The concept actually came to life, in 2001. In 2011. The concept came to light in 2010. We signed some agreement. We started in 2011. And Innovation Hub, of course, as a tech incubator, is to look for entrepreneurs, innovators like you that have great ideas, bring them in, nurture them, connect them to funders. Sometimes we invest in them. And that was how we did some syndicate investment in Andela when it was Fora. All later became Andela of today. When I was coming in, I saw Alt School. I don't know did we invite Alt School? I saw their boss outside. I saw that I get it parked in front of our fence. Alt School is owned by a friend of mine that were involved together in an accident a couple of years ago. This guy doesn't have a formal university education. He was a photographer when I met him. He was a photographer for the tech ecosystem. So he used to do photography for the tech ecosystem. Because we were young guys, a lot of people were getting married. So we used to invite him. He was one that took my elder brother's 50th photo shoot in his house. Then he was living in the same estate with my elder brother at Magungi, French colony. He didn't have any, he was almost nobody, he was just a photographer. Then he started a blog. He started a blog, and from that blog, it picked up the idea, to, have any of you have heard of Tech Point? He's the CEO, he was the CEO of Tech Point before he now started Alt School. So he now has a school he's running from Ife. He calls Alt School, School for Developers, and so on and so forth. It doesn't still have any formal education. But he's also equally driven. I know him very well. I mean, it's now that he constructs very well. He couldn't even construct very good English at the time when I met him. So you must understand that your life is beyond money and just seeking greener pastures. Your life must not be just about making money. Or else you will never be able to feel, in fact, you will never attain happiness. Well, I would even say you never attain joy. So joy, in my own opinion, comes from God. Because joy is not static. Happiness is actually a result of something. So if someone gives you iPhone 13 now, you're happy, you're elated. It doesn't change joy. It doesn't mean that if you go back to your corner of your room, you're not feeling sad and saying, oh yeah, I don't still have this master's, or I don't still have this job at, Shell. What is wrong with me? They give me a phone. How am I going to maintain this phone if the screen should break now? Now, you lack joy. But what you experience initially is happiness. So your lives as youth that can change the world, and not to look down on yourself, no matter what it is that you're passing through, no matter. This is not about your parents are rich or your parents are not. My own parents didn't send me to Grenadian, so if you think that I'm from no. That my eldest brother is 18 years older than me was the one that sent me through school. The one that bought me that Nokia 1100. He was the one that paid for my school fees throughout. So not my parents. My parents retired from civil service when my mom had an accident in 1985. I was very young at the time, had an accident. My dad had to resign. My mom automatically resigned because, she couldn't continue with work again. She was in hospital for 2 years, by the way. My dad had to resign because my dad would have to drive to Kuton to go and buy drugs for my mom in UCH at the time. So he also lost his job. So they were entrepreneurs. Maybe that was what gave me my drive because I'm almost like the only person in my house that's really entrepreneurial. So when I started knowing what life was all about, we were entrepreneurs in my house. My mom was selling palm oil, was selling water. I used to say that I took my innovative genes from my mom because she would, then at OJ Market in Ibadan, she would fill water. Then the way they used to sell water is they would put water, they would put cup, they would put block in a big bucket, and then they would put cup on top of the bucket and they cover it. So when you say you want to buy water, there are two cups. There's a big cup and a small cup. And then you say you want to buy water, maybe like 5 kobo or something. They'll give you the small cup. If you say you want 10 kobo, they'll give you the big cup, which is like times 3 of that small cup. Right? That's the cup that everybody used to drink water. If you like, you are mad, you are raving mad, or you are in suit and tie, is that cup everybody used to drink water. That's how I used to say. And my mom is someone that is very finicky. She said, you cannot continue like this now. She now said, okay, you know what? Because she used to pack, and she had a seal boy. You know what the seal boy is? What they used in making nylon, to seal nylon. She had a seal boy at the time. She said, okay, she can be measuring that cup into nylon and be tying it. And I'm not kidding you. Literally, she was the one that started tying water in nylon. Some of you may have, maybe you met that before pure water. Before pure water, we used to tie water in nylon. They would measure in nylon, they would tie it, and then they would say, she was the one that started this in OJ Market. Because she had a seal boy that she used to pack food. She just said, all of us cannot, she cannot drink. She said, if she cannot, and that's my concept today in business. What you cannot take, what I cannot take, I don't sell it to others. She said, if she cannot drink water from this cup, then she knows that some people will not drink water from this cup. Then she started tying it to J, and then thing caught fire like wildfire. Of course, the rest is history today. Today, we now put water in plastic bottles, we put water in pure water, and so on and so forth. But where I'm driving at is that you must live by a higher purpose. And I won't lie to you. So don't let it look as if my life has been all by my strength. I knew the Holy Spirit when I was in primary 5. Like I became baptized in the Holy Spirit when I was in primary 5. So I had a very early stage start with God. And I always had a life, I had always had a relationship with God up to tomorrow. It shows me things. Sometimes it shows me things that I refuse feel like, I don't know what, I've asked several, I've asked pastors, I've asked my, some of my spiritual mentors, and said that when God shows me things that don't pertain to my family member, that what am I supposed to do? For example, the two of the plane crash that happened in the last few years, I saw them. I even shared them with a friend of mine that we were brothers, that we were in the church then, in my former parish, before I came join this parish. I told him this is what I saw. My mom was meant to travel to UK that week. So I said, in fact, I just said, my mom cannot die by a plane crash. But we prayed together. He too I had my own vision on a Monday/Tuesday, I think. He had his own like a Wednesday/Thursday. About the same area. We saw the plane hovering. I saw my own plane hovering around Ijayi Ojokoro. He saw his own too around that in Ijayi Ojokoro. I think maybe up to Abile Egba or something. But we recognized the area. We were all living at Agbado at the time. We recognized the area. So we prayed, because I had my own vision Monday to Tuesday. He had his own Wednesday/Thursday. We met in church on Sunday. I said my mom was going to travel that Friday. And I said, I hope this is not I know my mom cannot die by plane crash. But we met that Sunday, we prayed. But then that plane crash then happened the following Sunday. So sometimes when I see those things, I don't know what to do. There are certain things that have happened that I've seen, and you can imagine how my life, how that has translated to some of the work that I do. So there is the God factor that gives you advantage. Unfortunately, there are a lot of us are not activating. And the reason why a lot of us, in my opinion, are not activating is because of the same mentality I used to carry before. That changed precisely in 2011 at the Special Holy Ghost service, when Daddy Gio mentioned something. And I think I shared this at the Teens Church too. So Daddy Gio said he just became the general overseer at the time. And he said he was meant to organize a convention. He has sold his car, but still needed 4,000 naira to meet the budget for the convention for that year. And he said he was running up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And when he grew tired, he didn't know what to do. He then turned to God in prayer. Either he turned to God in prayer or he asked his friend. He first asked his friend or something. And then his friend said, no, he turned to God in prayer. I think God then told him to just don't worry about it or something. And then his friend walked up to him and gave him 4,000 naira. But long and short is that, where I'm driving to that story is that he said that his friend told him that this 4,000, since you mentioned convention, that we're going to do convention, that I had kept aside this 4,000, but I didn't want to impose it on the church because I don't know if the church would need the money or not. That we can use the money for something else. But I kept the 4,000 right from the first day that Joe mentioned they were going to do convention when they needed that they were going to prepare for it. But he didn't say they needed money. That Joe was trying to do everything by himself. He said what he learned from that is that sometimes we segment God. We say, God, these are the things you should do for me. This one, you're giving me brain, let me do it. I know that God has not given you brain, no. But what did Proverbs 3:5-7 says? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, do what? And he shall do what? Very simple. With all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. So the Bible recognizes that you have a faculty, you have a brain. The Bible recognizes that you have capacity. In all your ways, acknowledge him. So your job is not to say God doesn't speak very fast enough. Your job is not to say, oh, he won't talk to me. Even if he doesn't tell me anything. Let me just. Your job is to go ahead in prayer with the mindset and the belief that he's going to answer you. So before you fill that form to choose the country you want to relocate to, have you asked God? Before you fill your master's form, have you tried to ask God? Before you take that juicy offer, have you asked God? You heard the man of God that talked about that guy that got a job. You that you don't have a job, they offered you 500K. Won't you run at it and take it? Even if the man of God says it's not your job, you say, I bind you. The devil can use anybody. Then 900K came, 900K job came. And then they still tell you that, no, this is not the job you want to, and this is not the job that God showed me about you. And you are still saying, you must be saying that, and that they go to Mashele. Ekin log bishen no. Thematic ba, shemo. Question chile wa now. Thematic ba, our mama pray so that ile mawa yo. But that's how God is. And sometimes we run ahead of our times as human beings. Because we fail to follow that simple scripture. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, including what should I wear today? Some of us think it's frivolous. Because it's in developing that kind of relationship that you start to develop the muscle to hear God when you're walking, when you're about to enter a place, when you're about to eat this food, when you're about to go. If I tell you things that have happened in my life, they sound like film trick. But these are the things this is the part where you cannot push God away from. However, God also expects that you develop enough wisdom. The Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. In all that I get understanding. So knowledge is something that you cannot run away from. So then let's go back to Ike guy. So then, if you then want to find your sweet spot, of course, number one thing is that you must be spirit controlled. However, no matter how much spirit controlled you are, God will not, except in certain instances, which is what they call grace. And trust me, we enjoy grace on different levels. So don't go and be testing God and saying that there's grace. No, the grace that abounds for someone is not the same grace that abounds for another person. And that is God. You cannot question God. Some of you, for example, earlier this year, will be wondering, how can I did you lose a son? This is a man that took up his bag one day, traveled to the U.S. without his knowledge, traveled to the U.S., asked for where Mami Yedekpo was, prayed for her, and returned her back from a terminal illness. 10 years later, woke up in the morning without calling his son, drove straight to Otta while the man was preparing to travel, prayed for him, and God averted the plane crash that was going to happen, that Yedekpo himself even, Pastor Yedekpo himself even testified about. This was the same guy that prayed for Shimbajo on a Friday/Saturday morning. And that same day, the helicopter crashed and nothing happened to him. And you're wondering, how did the son then now slump and die? But that's God for you. We all walk in different realms of grace. So you must keep it at the back of your mind. But the most important thing is that you must first step out as a Christian. You must first and foremost commit it to God in prayers. That's number one thing. Number two is then you now need to walk according to what the Bible has said, which is knowledge. So I'll start from skills. Skills, market, and passion. The way I would define skills is abundance of knowledge. I have a quote that I still put on my emails for those of you I've sent emails to. And I said that man is meant to know anything possible. Man is meant to know everything possible, but not to practice everything possible. Man is meant to know anything possible, but not to practice everything possible. All things are expedient, but not all things are lawful. That was what I was reading that scripture several years ago, almost 20 years ago, and I was pondering over it, and that quote came out, and I wrote it down, and it's always been with me ever since. What that means is that the Bible God expects you to consume knowledge. God expects you to voraciously consume knowledge. So as a person that wants to succeed in life, that wants to change career, that wants to land your dream job or your dream work, like was defined, what is your career development plan? Are you investing time or you're wasting time? And let me explain what that investment, because sometimes we get too serious and we think that, I should only be reading. No, it's a big, big lie. Part of investing your time is protecting your mental health. And there are several ways we protect our mental health. Some of us will protect our mental health by chilling alone. Some of us would be in the company of friends. Some of us would be, by making others happy. But you must find what makes you happy and what makes you relax and engage in it as a religion on a daily basis. So if it's for you to take 1 hour out a day to watch your favorite whatever, go ahead and do it. But make sure that every day it's not walk, and then you break down mentally. But while you're doing that, the rest of the time that you're not resting, you're not sleeping. When you take adequate sleep, you're investing in yourself. So that's time invested. A lot of you think sleep is luxury. Sleep is not luxury. Sleep is investment. I don't know about you. I'm a night person, so I like to do a lot of overnight things. But when I was younger, my longest straight days of not sleeping was 3 days. 24 times 3. I literally watched the time. 1 hour to go, I was almost dozing, but I said, I'm going to break my own record. 3 days I didn't sleep, as long as I've done. And I was still bouncing the following morning. I only did 6 hours of sleep. But nowadays, I found out that if I do, the highest I can do is 2 days of not sleeping. By the time I don't get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep by the end of the second day, if I'm driving, I'll most likely enter, when I'm trying to bend, I would enter cabs, I will climb cabs, when I'm trying to stop, I will brush the car beside me. It shows that my cognitive abilities is reduced because of that lack of rest. That's just an experiment that I've used myself to do, and it made me understand the importance of sleep. So sleep adequately. Some of your body will do 5 hours, some will do 7 hours. Whatever your body can do, don't say that. All these motivational speakers and say that if you're sleeping one third of your life, let them sleep 1/3 of their life. Let them say whatever they want to say. Whatever amount of sleep that your body needs, give it. In case you don't know, the owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, doesn't joke with his 7 hours. And he's still like the number 1 or number 2 richest man in the world. He doesn't joke with his 7 hours. It doesn't. It doesn't joke with his 7 hours sleep. Is that not 7 hours, not almost 1/3 of your day every day? And he's doing it for years. And he's still the richest. So it's not about what you do. It's not about you denying yourself 2 hours of sleep. Some of us are night people, yeah. But it's not about you denying sleep. But it's about what you do with when you are active. When you're up and doing. So do you invest your time or do you waste your time? When you're not doing those times that you just sit down and you say, I'm just loafing, I just want to do this. What is the plan? I'll talk about the second thing quickly. Time. Thank you. I'll talk about the second thing quickly. And that is passion. Your passion is born out of the things that frustrate you. Frustration is the opposite of passion. And your passion usually comes in different forms and shape. But usually, there's a little one that comes to you every day that gets you frustrated and you want to. And there's one that is usually always there. You always, when you're not doing anything, you think about it. Like me, that video did something in me that also probably just meets who I am. Until tomorrow still defines who I want to be in life. Right? So the things that frustrate you the most, if you are the type that you're very passionate about Nigeria and you're arguing and saying that these leaders must die, this leader must do this, you should be in politics. Because only that kind of fire can get you through politics, and you literally can step on stones to change Nigeria. So the things that frustrate you the most is a pointer towards your passion. You need to discover what that is. There are certain things that also your passion, I must say quickly that one very important thing that determines what your passion is how much of information you consume. So the data, what you read about tends to fuel what you understand and then turns to talk about what you're passionate about. The truth is that if, for example, there's someone here that is passionate about, let me use the awkward things in this world, cemetery. You're just passionate about cemetery. You just love cemeteries. Like, cemeteries should be neat, should be well organized, should be... I'm using something odd. The truth is that if you've never read, you've never visited, or you've never seen the word cemetery before, you never know you're passionate about cemetery. There's no how. That's the truth about it. You're not... Some people think that... I belong to the school of thought that says that you are not born with any passion. You're born blank. And the things that you encounter in life will determine your passion. And guess what? It changes with time. It changes from time to time. It's either you're better understanding the passion, you're properly defining the passion to be more focused on a certain thing, or you're broadly defining passion. But passion is a function of your frustrations and information. So data, the information you know, and what frustrates you. And of course, the third thing is market, which is also largely about you understanding dynamics of what you're passionate about. So if you're passionate about the girl child, can you take time out to read about the girl child and just say which regions of the world are suffering, the most impacted? Which ones is the best role model for that? If you're passionate about photography, have you taken time to go in time of history and learn about how photography actually developed? Because when God places you in a place, He's expecting you to leave a dent in the world and not to just leave the world the way it is. So whatever it is that you're passionate about, research the market. And the market I would define simply as where demand meets supply. So the two important things you need to know about every market when you're discovering where you should be in life and you're trying to discover the market of where you should be in life is who is buying and who is selling. Who is interested in who is the biggest spender in this space? And who are my biggest competitors, or who are the people that are currently raking in money in this place? And then apply the Pareto principle as I close to that process, your 80-20 rule. So when you identify who is buying and who is selling, divide them, apply Pareto principle on both of them. Pareto principle states that 20% of your input will account for 80% of your output. And 80% of your input will account for just 20% of your output. So once you do that, you're very clear. Once you can know who is the biggest spender, who is among those top 20% in spending, and who is among the top 20% in buying, you can then know how exactly to enter your market. At this point, I'd like to draw a curtain. I'll try to draw the curtain by leaving you with what I talked about earlier on, that quote that I talked about earlier on, which is as simple as man is meant to know anything possible, but not to practice everything possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep clapping, keep clapping. That was so powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you for making out, because I know you're very busy. You just told them that you don't sleep. I know you're very busy, so thank you for making out time to do this for us. We do appreciate your presence and giving us knowledge based on your wealth of experience. Are you guys inspired? Did you feel better than when you came in? You feel loaded? Yes, so like I said, everything we are learning here today is not guess. It's not aspire to perspire, tested and trusted. We have the best people here speaking to us today. And our next speaker is a man with a nice smile. He has been in the human resources. He has been doing human resources and finance for like 17 years. So that smile is necessary when you want to fire people now, don't you think? So, and he's here today to talk to us about job etiquette, CV reviews, and other things that are important in that industry. He is currently the learning manager at UBA. So I have a UBA account. So if you want to do giveaway, I'm here. I'm a fan. So please put your hands together for Mr. Leye Adewusi as he comes to give us some more nuggets. Keep clapping, come on.
Thank you. I think we can do better than that. Let's put that for Jesus, the one who was and is and who will forever be, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Thank you. Please let me just put it there. How are you guys doing? How has it been so far? I heard some people went to play football. You won. That's a good one. Please, can you put your hands together for yourselves? And let's appreciate the church. Let's appreciate the pastorate. Let's appreciate the board of ministers and our leaders for providing this opportunity for us. I'm a youth. Don't I look like one? Yes. So, and I always appreciate when church gives us platforms like this for us to be able to learn. And I want to encourage each and every one of you that anywhere you find yourself, please always add value. This church is here because of all of you, and you must make changes. You must make difference where you are currently. I have something for you, and based on the topic they gave me, employability, job, interview tips, CV reviews, I expanded the scope a little bit because it's not just about those things. There are things that are so important for you to be able to thrive in the place of work, for you to be able to get jobs and for you to be able to thrive. Before I start, I know okay, let me try and see whether I can move my slides from here. Okay. Where is your media room? Okay, so I don't think it's moving. Okay, so just let me move. Normally, it would have moved, but don't worry. Let me just move it. Next slide. And, okay. You can move on. Okay, move on. This is about me. Has anyone seen the FedEx logo before? Yeah, FedEx is a courier company. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Does he have an arrow? Okay, someone saying here. Does he have an arrow? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Does he have an arrow? Go back to that previous slide. Please always wait for me to tell you to move to the next slide. Does he have an arrow now? Okay, now go to the previous slide. I asked, does he have an arrow? There was only one person that told me yes. Other people were thinking he didn't have an arrow. But you've seen it now. Have you seen the arrow? How come you didn't see it the first time? Color. But this arrow has always been there, even if I didn't highlight the color. But maybe some of us never paid attention to this. And that brings me to what one woman said, Ellen Keller. She happens to be a blind woman. She said, eyes that look are common, but eyes that see are rare. You can look at things like this and you will think it has always been, maybe you never noticed it. But there's a reason why they put an arrow there. Maybe forward-looking or things like that. They had a choice. They could have even easily moved the hex and put a space in between. But there's a reason why. Some other people see opportunities. Some other people see problems. Some people see problems. Some people see solutions. Eyes that look are common, but eyes that see are rare. Some people look at Nigeria and they said they want to get out of this country. They use, let me use your language, Japa. Whereas some people are saying, wow, they're coming into Nigeria because Nigeria is a land of opportunities. Most times you see Asians coming to Nigeria. Why do they come here? They start to look for opportunities around and meet, prefer solutions to the problems we have. Have you ever seen an Asian man with a CV before? Have you ever seen them queue for jobs? Some of those people you see in some of those organizations, some of those Asians you see, some of them don't have the kind of qualifications you have. Some of you are more qualified than them. But they are coming here because their eyes are opened. Let me ask your neighbor, are your eyes opened? Eyes that did what? Are common, but eyes that see are rare. May your own eyes be part of the ones that see. So let's move on. I'm going to show you a video. Move on. Okay, let's move on. Okay, before I show you the video, this is the outline of what I'm going to discuss. I'm going to show you a video now, Did You Know? I'm going to talk about employability skills, and I'm going to tell you few CV tips and interview tips, and I'm going to add virtual interview tips to this, because currently now, because of COVID, a lot of organizations are not allowing people to come into their offices physically for them to be interviewed. So virtual interview tips. We're going to look at how you can become a high potential employee. Those are the kind of employees employers are looking for. Do you have high potential? We're going to look at that and we're going to break it down.